Rudy Gobert with 24 and 17 as the Wolves take care of business versus Portland. I got Wolves expert Jack Borman to help us break it all down. It's all coming up next on the Locked On Wolves POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up? What's up? Back in the lab, back at it. Another T-Wolves POSTCAST episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. You got myself, Luke Inman, at Luke_Spinman. That's the man, Jack Borman, on Twitter, at JRBorman13. And before we get into all the action, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more with America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Right now, new customers, you're getting $150 in bonus bets with any $5 bet. $150 when you bet just $5. Check it out and visit FanDuel.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, man. So this is what it feels like, huh, to play a sub-500 team. Wouldn't know. Wolves haven't played one in a month. That schedule was ridiculous, toughest in the NBA, but they get Portland at home tonight, and I'd say it went about exactly the way you would have expected. Remember, Blazers just lost 139-77 to OKC, fifth worst loss in NBA history. So a nice game for them to come out at home, continue maybe fine-tuning some smaller things after that slugfest in Boston Wednesday night, and they never trailed at any point tonight. Started out hot, never looked back. Largest lead of the night tonight was 36. Kind of tells you everything you need to know. What's the front page read tomorrow morning, Jack, after 116-93 victory? Biggest takeaways and observations. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, in the first 6 minutes of this game, the Timberwolves were already up 22 points. You thought that the NBA record that the Thunder set one night ago of a 62-point lead after three quarters, that is the largest lead after three quarters in NBA history, had us questioning, was that going to last a full 24 hours? It was just a business-like approach from the Timberwolves out of the gates. And Jaden McDaniels said during shoot-around today that they had the Blazers in their headlights after what happened at Target Center in April last year. They don't put the Timberwolves in the play-in tournament there. And then, held Portland to 5 of 20 shooting in that first quarter, which was huge. Got off to a great start. And McDaniels himself was awesome in this one. He clamped Anthony Simons, who's been a terrific scorer for the Blazers this year without Damian Lillard. He had just 5 points. He did not make a shot from the field. He was 0 of 10 on field goal attempts. But it was really unselfish offense to me that set the tone in this one. Mike Conley came out of the gates hot, made 2 threes, had a nice pass to Carl. En route to a season-high 35 assists from the Wolves. The first quarter and that third quarter especially, they did a great job sharing the ball. Moved really well without the ball too. I thought guys were really, really active. As cutters, but they did a great job spacing too. That's why you saw so many insane highlights of guys dunking on dudes and making crazy layups and getting put back dunks. I mean, they just had great spacing that allowed guys to get up and make plays like that. And then on the other end of the floor, just really, really active defense. I thought season high 28 points off of 20 Blazers turnovers. That was, a point of emphasis considering how young this Blazers team is, considering that they, are one of the worst transition defenses in the NBA so far this season. So you just have to be really pleased with, the way the Timberwolves came out. Obviously that second quarter was just, I think, kind of playing with your food a little bit. And then they refocused in the halftime locker room, came out in that third quarter, and it was just a lot more of the same. From that first 12 minutes, and you got to love what the starters did, right? I mean, the guys only had two guys in double figures. Rudy had 24, Carl had 23, and then Jaden, Mike, and Ant all had 9 points, but all 5 of them had plus minuses of at least 33 points. That is certainly going to improve the team's or the starting lineup's net rating. I know that's been a point of contention among some people. That's a shout out to my guy, Mike O'Hagan. But it's just going to be, hopefully a sign of things to come against some of these sub 500 teams, considering, that was such a huge problem for the Wolves last season that it's probably going to have some renewed focus to it as they, enter this stretch now of playing a good number of teams that are below 500 or just significantly, worse than the Timberwolves are as a unit, and games that the Wolves are going to have to win. And they got off to a great start tonight.
Yeah, I want to deep dive into a little bit more of, individual performances, box scores, that stuff. But let me just circle back to that 16-game stretch they just went through. No opponent under 500, all of them 500 or better. If I were to tell you they went 9-7 there, Jack, during that run, what would you have said? And I guess, what did we learn, about this team during that stretch, the way they kind of grinded through it, right, with a winning record when it was all said and done?
Yeah, I think that it says a lot about, frankly, the resilience of the team, because they did lose some games, right? And they hadn't done a whole lot of losing in the first, 25 games of the season. But, I think the way that they were able to rebound and not let one bad loss become a second bad loss, or a close loss then become a woe is me, and, then get frustrated and, put two really bad showings together in a row. I think, obviously they lost 2 games in a row for the first time, but I don't really think they had prolonged stretches of just bad basketball, which can certainly happen when you're playing teams that are really, really good. And, that's a credit to the Wolves and, in the way that they're able to just stick together. And it says a lot about Chris Finch too, that he can, get all these guys on the same page and, help them flush a bad game and get them refocused and help them focus on, how good they are and things that they've done early in the season to kind of give them confidence and, and have a short-term memory, because that's definitely something that you need in the NBA. And when you think about a playoff series, right,
Exactly.
A lot of times in playoff series, it is not a surprise to see a team win by 20, 25, 30 points in one game and then lose by 15, 20, 25 in the next game. So, that's just kind of great practice, I guess, for the Wolves to, not let one bad loss become a second one and, and ultimately come out ahead in that stretch, right? They entered that stretch as the number 1 team in the West. They came out of it the number 1 team in the West. And it's not like they had this huge, crazy lead on everyone else either. So obviously a great testament to this group, and, also a great thing that they were able to stay healthy, for pretty much the entirety of it. And that, you had some guys miss a few games here and there, but, no long-term injuries, illnesses, things like that, which is, obviously the most important thing when you consider that, April and May and hopefully June, knock on wood, are certainly at the top of the Timberwolves' mind as they move forward.
Just super quick, because I know it's still fresh on some people's minds in here. I promise then we'll deep dive on tonight's game. But what about the Boston game specifically? Just now that the dust is settled, right? 36, 48 hours later, I know despite the loss, you came on here on Wednesday night. You were glowing about that performance on the back end of a back-to-back, what they did, that slugfest on the road. What do you think they can learn from that one, knowing full well they're likely going to be in more games and situations like that in April and hopefully in May? So what were the teachable moments, I guess, you came away thinking after that Boston game?
My first takeaway after that game is the Celtics got beat so badly by the Bucks in that first half. They were up.
Yeah.
They're up 37 points at halftime, something like that, in Milwaukee the next night that TNT didn't show wild. The second half of that game.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever seen anything like that. So I guess it speaks to the Timberwolves' ability to just kind of wear down a team. And obviously the Bucks are great too, but I think that speaks a lot to just how grueling it is to play the Timberwolves, regardless of who you are. You could be the best team in the league and it's still a loss. Yep. Goes down the record books as a loss, but it's just a testament to how hard the Timberwolves played last night. Like, playing hard every night is a skill in the NBA. Mm-hmm. It was a huge reason why the Timberwolves made the playoffs 2 seasons ago and started to change the culture here, is because they had so many guys, Jared Vanderbilt especially, that just played their behinds off every night, which was awesome to see. And win, lose, or draw, I think fans can at least appreciate a team that plays really hard every night. And then, some of the teachable moments, I guess, from that game, Naz Reid talked about it a little bit. You just can't have fouls like that in that situation. Jaden McDaniels, that take fouled out, transition, they just gave away a lot of the momentum that they, really fought tooth and nail to get in that fourth quarter. And some teachable moments for sure for Anthony Edwards with how to handle double teams and, and how to get off the ball sooner and trust your teammates, and and just kind of let your teammates do the work when the defense is really working to take you away. That doesn't mean that you have to get passive. It just means that you have to kind of aggressively seek out your teammates in positions where they can kind of beat the backside of the defense. And Karl Anthony Towns and Jaden McDaniels are certainly capable of doing that. And obviously not having Mike Conley is tough, is just like another guy to help get things organized. But they've just got to have, I think, more poise, more calm, and just composure in a lot of those moments. And I think, they're leaning a little bit too heavily on Mike and just kind of knowing I don't have to think too hard because Mike's going to make sure to tell me, these are the things that we have to do in a game like this. But, again, I said it after the Dallas game that game would put a lot of things on film, that they can really keep top of mind to correct going into certain matchups with teams that can kind of do similar things that Dallas can defensively. And it's the same thing here for guys like Ant and Naz and Jaden, is like, hey, this is like worst case, right? This is going to happen in the playoffs. This is what not to do. And if you can do anything except this, I think we're going to be all right. And so, you hope that they'll be able to carry some of that forward. But yeah, and again, it's credit to Ant tonight, right? Like you let your teammates kind of do the work tonight, but it's a little bit different when, the game has the tenor of a varsity versus freshman basketball team, rather than a team is aggressively doubling you to take you out of the game. So, but again, man, just what a great ball game that was.
Yeah, that was crazy. Boston. Yeah, well said. A lot of positives to take away from that one in Boston for sure. And, a lot of fun to watch for the home court crowd tonight as well versus Portland. All right, plenty more deep dive from this one right after a quick word from BetterHelp. What are some things that you want to keep the same about yourself or about your life in 2024? Where are you already crushing it? Maybe start thinking the opposite of new year, new you. Try ditching all the New Year's resolutions and start expanding on what you already do right. Maybe that's organizing the closet or the garage. I know that's something that I always struggle with. Maybe you take those daily vitamins and stay healthy during the new year. And now you're looking to take it to the next step. Well, therapy can help you find your best strengths and maximize your own specific skill set so you can finally ditch the extreme resolutions. Instead, therapy can help you make changes that really stick over the long term once and for all. If you've been thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and it's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited for your time frame. And it's so easy. All you got to do is fill out a brief questionnaire, get matched up with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time at no additional charge. It's time to start celebrating the progress you've already made. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, let's pick back up here. A few performances really stood out tonight specifically. And anytime you're playing a team like this, you're thinking, all right, it could be an opportunity for somebody to light up the box score. But man, the way that Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert combo put on an absolute masterclass tonight, that was a thing of beauty, wasn't it? A lot of fun to watch. I know you texted me earlier, and I didn't even realize it. Conley, 10 assists in the first half for just the second time in his career. He had more assists than the entire Portland team at halftime, who only had 8, which is just absolutely insane. Rudy Gobert, go off, big fella, 24 and 17. Just talk to me about how deadly and in sync those two were tonight, playing off one another. How fun was that?
Yeah, it was great. I meant to text someone on the Wolves PR team to ask how many times a player has recorded more assists than an entire opposing
Can't be a lot,
team.
Man. Can't be a lot.
It's got to be less than maybe
hand.
20. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Mike Conley was in total control of this game. I think that Mike does such a great job of kind of seeking out each player on the roster to try to get them a touch or try to get them an easy score early in the game to try to help them find a rhythm. And that's something that he totally is like consciously doing. And that's what he did tonight. I mean, he very quickly had five assists. I think he had 5 assists in like the first 4 minutes of the game, which was just tremendous. And especially working with Rudy Gobert too, right? Like I think the earlier you can get Rudy a lob dunk, or he had a couple of really nice bounce passes to Rudy and pick and roll, and Rudy did a great job kind of collecting those and finishing. I just think the earlier you can get Rudy on the scoreboard, the more engaged he's going to be, especially in the offensive end. But the way Mike Conley snakes around Gobert screens, he times them so well so that Gobert doesn't pick up illegal screens. But he creates so much space and then does such a good job of with that space, kind of playing with the defense, drawing defenders in from certain spots in the floor so he can create a passing lane to get, a certain teammate the ball in the corner or in the slot or things like that. And he was just hitting all the right notes tonight. And obviously, hit 2 of 2 threes right away. But yeah, the assists that he had in the first half, I thought were awesome. Did a good job of getting everybody involved there. And I think the biggest thing too for Mike is just like not forcing anything. The way that he's able to, just so effortlessly get people involved. I mean, he had 10 assists, all of them were in the first half, and he had those 10 assists to 6 different players, and he created 23 points off of those 10 assists. And Jeff, that is right. Rudy Gobert is leading the NBA in dunks after tonight. I think he passed Giannis. But yeah, speaking of Rudy, I mean, he was just a bully tonight.
Yeah.
It really felt like, I'm sorry to keep going back to the high school thing. I mean, it just felt like a senior just stuffing freshmen in lockers. It felt like he walked up to every single freshman on the C team and just put each one in a locker with whoever was guarding him. I mean, it was pretty crazy. I mean, he did a great job of using his physicality inside, both to seal and create, passing lanes for his teammates, but also getting offensive rebounds. He was tremendous there. I think that when you look at Gobert specifically, it's unfortunate for him sometimes that he does have to create his own offensive opportunities just because I get, he's not a player like Karl Anthony Towns, right? Where you can line him up all over the floor, get him the ball anywhere, and he can score it from anywhere. Like it's got to be either in pick and roll, maybe a post up across the front of the rim, or an offensive rebound. I had 5 offensive rebounds tonight. I think he had either 3 or 4 putback dunks, which was awesome. Did 24 points, only missed 2 shots. I believe 5 of those were dunks. He won on a personal 8-0 run when the Timberwolves were kind of slipping and backsliding in the second quarter to kind of help reestablish a firm lead going into halftime. And then the other thing that I noticed on the offensive end with Rudy Gobert specifically, Anthony Edwards, 3 assists to Rudy Gobert tonight, only had 17 on the whole season entering tonight. So about 2 a game. Had 3 tonight, about 1 every 2 games. Sorry. And had 3 tonight, which was, obviously what you want to see. And then defensively, man, he just continues to contest seemingly every shot south of the free throw line. Portland only shot 60% at the rim, which is, you might think, 60%. Like that's a really good figure for a defense to hold an opposing offense to. And they were 3 of 16 in that short mid-range area, in that 4 to 14 feet. I know we talk about this almost every single game, but it is really, truly incredible how many of these shots the Timberwolves force their opponents to take and how excellent they are at defending them. I haven't checked the numbers recently, but I'm pretty sure that the Timberwolves are still the number 1 team in the league in opponent shooting percentage in that 4 to 14 feet area. So the way that he was just able to really bully the Trailblazers on both ends of the floor, he had 17 rebounds in 28 minutes. That's pretty incredible. I think, if Rudy would have played his full, 35, 36 minutes, he certainly would have gotten to 20, 25 rebounds and could have had a potentially 25 and 25 night, or 30 points and 25 rebound type of game. But, he's really done a great job of taking advantage of teams that have really weaker or smaller fives, especially young teams. When you think about guys like Wembanyama or Chet Holmgren, he's really gotten up for those games, and tonight was another one. And I think, when you think about a lot of the teams that are, near the bottom of the standings that the Wolves will be playing coming up, a lot of those teams either don't really have a center that's a true center, a 7-foot plus guy, or they have a really young, inexperienced guy. And I think, Rudy's going to be really important for setting the tone in a lot of those games. And he did it tonight, and you hope that he can be a part of that blueprint for starting to really rack up some wins here against some inferior competition.
I like what you said. I mean, you mentioned Rudy continues to kind of dominate with weak or maybe suboptimal talent at the 5 position. So again, when I hear that, I immediately think, okay, so which potential Western Conference playoff teams might have some of the weaker 5 play and by theory might make a good matchup for the Wolves in round 1 and beyond. You mentioned Chet Holmgren and OKC. Anyone else come to mind? Maybe we can circle, or who might that be top of your head?
Yeah, and it's not like Chet Holmgren's like a weak,
Right.
weak competition. It's just like he is physically much weaker than Rudy Gobert, and Rudy Gobert isn't totally able to physically dominate a lot of guys, a lot of the elite centers. When you think of like Sabonis and Embiid and Jokic and players like that, but yeah, I mean, you look at teams like the Houston Rockets. Alperen Şengün might be the worst defensive 5 in the league. You think about Phoenix and Yusuf Nurkic. She's played Yusuf Nurkic a lot, dating back to their days in Utah, dating back to Eurobasket. So he's certainly familiar with him. And then I think, outside of that, everyone else that they would face in the playoffs, or Derek Lively, I guess, is another one you could throw in there for the Mavs. He's a very good player, but he's young, and Rudy really took advantage of him in the first couple matchups that they had. He did not play in the most recent matchup against Dallas, but I mean, you go down. I mean, you think Denver's got Jokic, the Pelicans have Valanciunas, the Kings have Sabonis, who again isn't great defensively, so he could certainly take advantage of that. But it's just a really physical dude that he can't kind of bully on both ends. And then the Lakers have Anthony Davis, and I don't think Utah or Golden State or Memphis or Portland or obviously San Antonio are going to be in the playoffs. So, I think that Zubats is one that I actually think is pretty underrated across the league. But yeah, I mean, Rudy Gobert is certainly a better player than Zubac for sure. It's just not, you won't get a night like tonight too many times. I don't think on Zoo, but yeah, there's certainly going to be opportunities out there, especially in the first round. And the more, impactful Rudy Gobert can be on the offensive end of the floor, the more pressure it takes off of guys like Ant and Carl to really do all the scoring in the playoffs, especially considering that the Timberwolves just haven't really had a super consistent third scorer. And so if Rudy Gobert can really emerge as that third scorer, and as his team continues to get more comfortable throwing in the ball and finding places for him to score from, that'll be really helpful.
Naz Reid, new front runner for greatest shot of the year for the Wolves after that no-look floater crashing to the ground off the backboard. What'd you think of that one?
Yeah, I think if you're looking for like a horse shot, for sure, no question.
Absolutely, yeah. We're talking more trick shots.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean that shot that
clutch,
Ant had
fourth
too.
quarter. Yeah, the Ant one as well. Yeah,
the Ant one after the foul was called. But yeah, man, that was insane.
That was wicked.
And hey, Target Center. I know Jim Pete mentioned the Blake Hoffarber shot from Hopkins from way back in the day, but it is almost an annual thing that there is a Minnesota State High School League shot that ends up on SportsCenter top 10 from the state tournament. There's been no shortage of crazy trick shots at Target Center.
Scott Van Pelt is waiting in the studio as we love Scott. Yeah, no, absolutely. You're totally right. All right, couple quickies to close before we wrap up. But first, a quick word from FanDuel. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more with America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Right now, new customers, you're getting $150 in bonus bets when you place any $5 wager. $150 in bonus bets when you throw down just $5 on any bet. And you don't even have to win. I mean, this promo was made for a guy like me, and I know you're going to love it too. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, no better time to get in on all the action. The app, so easy to use, and they got everything you need. Money lines, parlays, prop bets, over-unders, you name it, they got it. FanDuel's got everything you need to bet on the entire NBA season, and it's by far the easiest and simplest betting app to use as well. Go check it out for yourself. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon today. America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel, official partner of the NBA. All right, schedule coming up now. Next week or so, Clippers, Pistons, Grizzlies, no Ja Morant. He's out for the season. I just saw Smart's out for 6 weeks now, too. Which one
And
are you
Desmond,
most excited? Yeah, go ahead.
And Desmond Bane, too, might be out for a while with a knee injury, looks like, too.
Yikes. What? Yeah. Okay, so I was going to say, which one are you most excited about? But, maybe what are you more excited about, like a specific matchup now or a guy that you maybe don't get to watch a lot, whatever it may be. Which game are you starting to circle, I guess, on the schedule coming up?
I think it's certainly the Clippers game. I was pretty vocal. I really liked that trade for the Clippers when it first happened. I think that he fits in perfectly with what the Clippers want to do and how they want to spread the floor and drive and kick and keep driving and kicking and force switches and they have 3 amazing isolation players in James Harden, Kawhi, and Paul George, and they're just totally able to compromise the defense any way that you want to. They can run pick and roll. Zubac is a great screen setter. Is a good lob threat too. Can catch passes. A pretty solid post-up player too against really smaller defenders. They've got a pretty deep team too. When you think about the fact that Norm Powell is coming off the bench for them, he's just a phenomenal player that they have also if they want to play 5 out. And then you think about the pace that Russell Westbrook can help your team play at is just an incredible thing. I think the Clippers have lost maybe one time in the last month and change, which has been pretty remarkable when you think about it. They've lost 3 times in the last month, but yeah, I mean, and they've been like 10-1 in their last 11, and just the way that Harden has been sharing the wealth there with everybody has been crazy, and the way that they're able to switch 1 through 4 around Zubac is pretty impressive. And I just think it's really fun to see a team that can spread you out and play such a unique style of basketball. I mean, it's pretty similar to what Boston's doing in that they just have so many guys that can hurt you, and they have no problem playing more of a positionless basketball. It's really truly an awesome team to watch, and there's no reason. I mean, everyone wants to point at like, oh, the Clippers always flame out and melt down in the playoffs, but like, I mean, when you think about Terrence Mann, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George, I don't know off the top of my head if I can think of a better defensive wing trio in the entire league than that, which is pretty incredible. And Zubac is a pretty good rim defender too. And so, James Harden is 6'5", 230 pounds.
Yeah.
He's no slouch either. Like when James Harden really wants to play defense, like he's really physical and does a great job walling up. So I'm really excited to see, how the Timberwolves operate offensively against their defense. I think that, the Timberwolves have some horses between Ant and Jaden and Nikhil and Kyle Anderson, where they'll kind of be able to check up some of these dudes and not allow them to, all go off, if you will. But I think the Timberwolves are going to have a really tough time scoring on the Clippers offensively, unless they move the ball like they did tonight. So I obviously think that, while sometimes it's tough to play such an unserious game and then shift to a really serious one.
Yeah.
But in some cases it can be pretty good to help you kind of find a rhythm offensively and prove to you what works here with being unselfish and really moving without the basketball. So, so how the Timberwolves match up against a team that's going to switch, that's going to play zone, it's really going to try to force you into play isolation basketball is going to be interesting to watch because there'll be some opportunities for them to score, no question, especially against the Clippers, reserves. None of those guys are really good defenders at all off the bench, but yeah, it'll be a fun one.
Starters were out early in the 4th quarter tonight after that blowout. Anyone stick out to you, maybe impress you, whether that's a veteran or one of the younger guys we're kind of hoping continues to develop and progress a little bit? Josh Minot, Wendell Moore, Leonard Miller, more Shake Milton tonight, TBJ. Anything catch your eye?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there is playing against nobodies, but Shake Milton played really, really well. I really liked the way that he pushed the pace and got the ball quickly into the front court and was pretty unselfish too and did a great job moving without the ball as a cutter down the lane. And so I think that hopefully trying to find some some spots where he can get some minutes, I think is going to be important. But it's going to be hard to displace Jordan McLaughlin from the rotation. Again, five assists in 13 minutes tonight for J-Mac. He also had another steal. And then I always just really enjoy watching Leonard Millard play. He's just, there's some guys
we all do, man.
There's some guys that you just kind of forget when they're out there, Andrew Wiggins, not to name names. But Leonard Miller is a guy that you notice every single time he's on the floor. He's just always around the basketball. He's always making plays. And, I know there's not really going to be a time, hopefully knock on wood with no injuries that he's going to really play, but 4 points, 2 rebounds, a block, and a steal in 8 minutes. I think he also had, 2 or 3 fouls, but I just love his activity. And I think he's a guy that can, like Jordan McLaughlin in some ways, really, infuse the game with some energy. In a game where the Timberwolves are pretty lifeless, down the line, I would love if Finchie just, pressed the Leonard Miller chaos button. He probably won't. I fully recognize that, but I'd selfishly like to see some of it. But yeah, and then Troy Brown Jr. again just was way too good to be out there right at the end. He was just wide open in the corner, made a couple threes, made a few really nice passes downhill. But again, like that was basically just a crappy pickup game at the end of the game for the last 9 minutes, whatever it was. Certainly the most non-competitive Timberwolves game I can remember in a long time.
We got about 2.5 minutes left here. So last one, I pulled up just a random article on some possible trade deadline deals. And for the Wolves, okay, there was 5 of them on here. I immediately took out everyone that had Mike Conley packaged in the mix because that ain't happening. So here were the only 2 that were left. And I want to know if either one make any sense at all or which one you prefer over the other. Kyle Anderson, so slow-mo, TBJ, and a 2028 first-round pick for Dylan Brooks, or Jaden McDaniels, Kyle Anderson, Josh Minot, and a 2030 first-round pick for McCall Bridges. I don't know how lopsided or realistic either one of those are, but put your GM cap on and tell me which one of the 2 maybe tickles your fancy a little bit.
Neither of them are legal trades.
Well, there you go. All right.
So I would say neither. So the Timberwolves won't be able to trade a first-round pick until 2031 unless they do it on draft night. Yeah. Wow. So they you can't trade your first-round pick in back-to-back years. So they have their first-round picks out in 25, 27, and 29.
Wow. Well, let's say, okay, instead of a first, they were like 3 seconds. Instead of 1 first, it was like 2 or 3
then
seconds.
I'd probably say the Mikal Bridges one, just because – he's an awesome player, and I think you'd fit perfectly around everybody here. But yeah, I don't think they're going to trade Jaden McDaniels anytime remotely soon in the next 10 years. So, but who knows? Maybe in 7 years, they're able to flip Jaden McDaniels for some superstar that's in like the 4th grade right now. I don't know. So. We'll see, but I think it'll be a much smaller scale, a trade deadline and buyout market, free agency acquisition period than some might think.
Wolves bounce back strong with the 116-93 victory over Portland. They now move to 27-11 on the year. Back at home this Sunday versus the Clippers. That'll be a great one. Tip off 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. As always, huge shout out to everyone that joined us in the postcast. Rest assured, we'll be back each and every game, same time, same place, right here to break it all down. You got to go check out all of Jack's work on Twitter at JRBorman13. And quick reminder as well, you can always check out Jack on the Minnesota Basketball Party with all our guys, Sam Ekstrom, Ron Johnson, Reggie Wilson from Care 11. That's every Wednesday afternoon as well. And if you haven't already, got to go check out Ben Beacon over on the Locked On Wolves podcast, too. That'll do it for us tonight. He's Jack Borman. I'm Luke Inman on Twitter, at Luke_Spinman. Until next time, signing